Welcome to the No Name Podcast. Thanks for joining us. As you know, our podcast is called The No Name because it's not about our names, but about his name. As you guys can see, we're kind of upgrading a little bit. We got some new mics, a couple of new things going on. So hopefully the sound will be coming out a little bit more clear.
Yeah, hopefully.
We definitely appreciate you guys joining us and being part of this. Again, thanks for those of you that are starting to communicate in the comments and send your feedback. We appreciate it. Definitely want to keep encouraging that community to keep growing, like keep putting your feedbacks out there and just, talking to each other. I mean, that's really what it's about as we kind of go through these podcasts, as we go through these different discussions and things like that. As you can see, we have a returning guest. I guess you'd be our first returning guest.
Yes.
Maybe just throw your name out there just in case someone doesn't know you.
Hi, I'm Fidelia Sandoval.
So we brought my mom on because we were going to talk about women in ministry, and the plan is still to get into that. But with everything going on in the world today, we definitely want to take a pause first and kind of start off with the elephant in the room, I guess, if you want to call it, or what's been on TV, what's been going on, the tragedy in Uvalde. It's pretty close to home, being that it's not that far from San Antonio. And I know a lot of people have questions and things like that. And I think at the fundamental of it all, like, it is a tragedy. I mean, there's no ands, ifs, buts about it. Whatever you sit on, whichever side, whether you're on the right, you're the left, you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, whatever the case, Christian or not Christian, it's tragedy when lives are lost like that.
Yeah.
It's senseless. And at the same time, one of the things that can get lost in it is the full around impact. And so I definitely wanted us to open up with that because there's a lot to unfold from there. And hopefully, if for whatever reason, if we don't have enough time, we don't get into the women in ministry, I think it's important to kind of address this. And then we'll come back to that at another day. But the hope is we will get into both of them. But I just think just because of the magnitude of it, not because it's close to here, but I think every time these happen, I don't think we fully understand the full impact. To the people involved, the people around it, to our world, to our society. And then I think just in from a Christian perspective, what can we do about it? What should we be doing about it? Again, like I said, it is a tragedy, and it's not something that anyone wishes upon anyone, but we find ourselves here. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone wants to open up first or.
No, I think first we should just pray for them and, for the families and their friends and for the whole people over there because, the hardest thing is, the days go by, it becomes more reality to them and, especially the way they died, a school should be a safe place and it looks like it's not. And, and the hard thing is, to remember them, but now the blame game starts, who's in fault, who's not in fault, what they should have done or not done. And in reality, it doesn't really matter what anybody did or done because it already happened, those poor kids die and there's some still in the hospital, that I know. And in reality, the most thing they need is prayer.
Yeah.
Because, the senseless thing is when they're at home, the family, the moms and dads, the grandfathers, grandmothers, brothers and sisters and all that, their mind is probably thinking, why the senseless thing happened like that?
Yeah.
Why, in their school, or, why did that kid go in there and did what it did, but evils is everywhere, so let's just keep them in prayer. And I know there's a lot of ministers over there, pastors of the churches that are going over there and praying for them and, doing, the churches around those communities are doing. So we got to pray for those churches too, that God gives them the strength and whatever they need to help out those families there, because I think some of them were touched by that tragedy too. Some of the pastors, some of the families there.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think
so.
Well, I think sometimes I think we get so micro focused on it in the sense of we don't look at the bigger picture of the ripple effects of this in that city and that area, because we definitely need to be praying for them, praying for the families, but the psychological toll it's going to take on those kids that did survive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The psychological toll it's going to take, like,
oh my goodness,
that whole the sometimes that's why I think we lose the focus on that. This is a tragedy all the way around. There's going to be kids who, some that survive this who will never have
Mentally,
a normal childhood, a normal growing up.
Yeah.
Even as much as people may want to try to bring them back to some kind of normalness, it's
gonna be tough, bro.
It's always going to be with them.
Tough, man.
And I just think that's why it's important that we're praying, for everyone. I think it's also, it's just kind of interesting that we were just talking about mental health.
I know.
And as we speak of mental health, I mean, you just see it all the way around. There's the mental health of the families who lost loved ones there. There's the mental health of the kids that survived, the parents that survived, the family members that survived. And even with this kid, I mean, he's 18 years old, and you gotta, sometimes we don't ask ourselves the question of what drove him to this area. Like what drove him to this point, and that this was the only hope, this was the only solution. And I think that's why it's important that parents are talking to their kids, having that relationship. We're having these discussions in the right way, not in arguing with each other or pointing blame, but starting to have conversations with each other about things like that.
Yeah. I think too. I'm sorry, bro.
No, go ahead.
We need to start recognizing the signs, though, man. Yeah. The signs and the things that can drive a person to want to go and do that, man. Like, that's, I don't know, man. Just mentally, I don't know, man. It's hard. It's just hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
As a parent, my heart grieves with those parents, but there's some. I mean, I have to say, there's parents that are communicating, but still, you don't think that will go ahead and happen. And then, I don't know, my generation and maybe the ones that aren't on social media, because apparently he was on there and there was no red flags. Mm-hmm. I know that, from what I hear on the news, that he had asked, I don't know, a sister or stepsister to help him buy the gun, but he kind of planned it out and waited until he was 18 and no other criminal background, and he was able to. Right. But again, he lived with his grandparents, so it's kind of hard to go ahead and especially, how do you know when your child is getting to that point? There's some, I'm kind of concerned, but is he capable of that? I think a parent doesn't want to think my child is capable of doing something like that. And we try to, not see it.
Yeah.
And that's something, that the parents of that young man and his grandparents are going to have to live with. The community, my prayers are every day. I had to turn off the news on for a couple of days and look at something else, because it was,
It is.
Hard.
I think that's a good point. I think sometimes we have to pause and wait, because, like, right now, information's flooding all through. People are assuming, creating their own timelines, jumping through this. The DPS is starting to release things, and it's changing because there's just so much going on. So it's easy to get upset, to put anger or blame on different things. And I think right now it is a time for prayer. It's time for having discussions, having conversations. I think that's I mean, in our society, that's why I think with this podcast, and I'm not saying like our podcast is huge or anything like that, but it's just a matter of us engaging and having these conversations, whether we agree or not, is starting to have these conversations in regards to mental health, in regards to what's going on in our cities, our world, into so many different things, because a lot of this all plays into it. Like, I think, it's kind of like we had our conversation about the Roe versus Wade. And I think when we focus on just one solution, we're not really looking at the biggest thing. When we think that getting rid of abortions is going to fix everything, that's not the right thing. And it's not going to, there's so much more. Just like everyone's focusing on, okay, we need to make stronger gun laws, we need to make this and that. Right. And right now, I don't know what the right solution is, but I do know. I was reading a scripture and I found it interesting because it highlighted something for me. It was something Jesus said in John 16, verse 33. He said, "I have said these things to you that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulations, but take heart, I have overcome the world." And you see, one of the things I think he made very clear was that in the world we're going to have tribulations, and he didn't say that the world was going to be perfect. We have to understand that, as we talk to like the mental health and stuff like that, this is not something that just happened when the US was created. This is not something that just happened when social media was created. Mental health, the decaying of humanity has started since the fall of man. And this is what happens when we have the fall of man. And I'm not saying that means that we shouldn't care or just make this like it's nothing. This is big things. These are more frequent now. But we definitely need to just kind of keep an eye. I mean, I think that's the thing, is just more talking, having that family structure, having those conversations. And that doesn't mean like family structure of staying in forced marriages or anything like that. It's just a matter of talking with your kids, having those conversations. And you're right, you're not going to catch every signs, but there's a better chance of us seeing things if we're communicating with each other. What were you going to say?
No, I was thinking on, I think one day that we were having dinner and I said, well, look at Cain, the first man born. He was born with all this rage, anger, jealousy, all the bad, immoral, that he went ahead and took his little brother into the wilderness and killed him. Now, my imagination goes to, I wonder, because God did not receive his offering, that, he went ahead and, said, okay, well, God, and sliced his brother's throat. Is this good enough? Man. I mean, that's my imagination on that. Yeah. Because Abel was supposed to be, the better person. Yeah. So this, insanity, rage and anger and that we see now, since the fall of man, the first man born into this world, according to the Bible, went ahead and did this evil to his own family member. So, but we are still shocked when we see these things, and my heart goes out to those families and that community, because they
didn't do nothing.
Everything that happened, and elementary schools, just like here, have homes around them. That people were out there. They lived across the street from that elementary school, and as it was coming all to unfolding. So that's why the community is so, there's so much hurt.
Yeah, and I think that's a key thing there, is having community. I think that's why it's important coming out of the pandemic and things like that we build a community, one with fellow Christian brothers and sisters, but also one that's welcoming to others. Because not that it's going to prevent everything, but if we were just kinder to each other, what that could be different for everyone, and I say that tongue in cheek because I'm probably not the kindest person, but I just think we just need to be a little bit kinder to each other.
I think this one, it was one of the hardest one, because most of the other mass shootings, it was people that went and did. They were strangers that went and did stuff in other places. Like the one, what is it, in Buffalo? In Buffalo?
Yeah.
In the top supermarket?
He came from somewhere else and went and did that. Yeah. The only one that's similar to this one is the Sandy Hook, where that kid lived there,
in
around
the
there.
community,
And I think that's the hardest thing, for, especially, I think for those people that live there is, one of their own, went and did it. It wasn't somebody that came from crazy from somewhere and it was one of their own that came and did that. I think his grandmother worked there at that place, if I'm not mistaken. And knew a lot of people, and I was looking at the news, and I think it was the mother of the man that shot those. Remember the ones in FedEx, the one that went into a site of FedEx and shot people and killed them a couple of years back. And something that caught me, she said, "Look, I'm here talking about this. It's not about my son. My son made a decision to go and kill those people. Dijo, so I'm not mourning my son, and my son not sad. I mourn the people that he went senselessly and took their lives. Dijo, and this is a reminder to me of what as a parent of a shooter. Well, I think he was a shooter of the FedEx. He was a parent of what he did. Dijo, because then sometimes we get the blame because of what he did. And then sometimes that's the anger can go towards the family and all that, and not knowing what was going on through that kid's mind, like the sister coming out and saying, "Oh, he told me to buy a gun." Sometimes we've all people do that. Can you buy me this? Can you buy me that?
Oh yeah.
Not knowing why they're buying it for. She couldn't have known that. Now everybody wants to put the puzzle together, like but nobody really knew what he wanted that gun for or not, So, a lot of things we can analyze everything like they're doing. The news is analyzing, asking questions.
You already know, man.
I think sometimes they ask stupid questions and go and tell the poor families, why this, why that. Families don't know why. Hey, they're mourning. They're hurting.
Right. They're hurting right now, man.
They're going through something, something that is going to change their life. Because I know a lot of the kids that in Sandy Hook, when they grew up, a lot of them, their lives ain't that great. Yeah. A lot of them got into drugs. A lot of them, psychiatric help and all that, going through all that, because it affected them. It affected them. I don't know who told me that one of the kids got the blood of somebody there, put it on him, and acted like he was dead.
A little girl.
Little girl. So the shooter thought she was dead. Imagine that.
That's just crazy.
That kid, that little girl or boy, whatever it was, having to live with the reminder of that blood she put just to survive.
Wow.
Just to survive. Wow. Now imagine the teacher that opened that door to go to her car, I think apparently, and left it ajar. Imagine what she has to go through, And the sad thing that she might even get death threats because of that, because that's where it was a ripple effect, and a lot of things can happen. So I know that the mind you can torment yourself. The devil can torment yourself. And I know that because when our baby died, my mind was going crazy. And I didn't care what people told me. No, it's not your fault. It, had nothing to do with your drug abuse and this and that. Or, but my mind was, the devil was putting guilt on me and all that. So a lot of those people are going to go through that. A lot of those people, Now, especially the criticism of how come they didn't go in sooner, I like what one New York cop said, and he said, "Look, it's gonna sound cold and it's gonna sound cruel what I'm gonna say." He said, "But those cops did the right thing. They had the guy in 2 rooms, and they stopped him there. Which, if they hadn't done that, he could have had the run of the whole school.
Of course, right. He could have ran him. He could have ran him.
And killed more kids and done more damage.
Yeah, of course.
I said, I mean, you never want to lose life or anything, but they cornered him at least. Now should have they gone sooner in or not? That's going to be the debate for a long time. They have to go through protocols. They have to go through this, and whoever the chief of the school police was in charge, he made those decisions too. And then, now they're coming out, kids were calling 911 for help and all this. And, and then, the parents are going to hear all that. And it's sad because you know what? What if, that's life. What if this could have happened? What if we would have gone in, were they able to save more kids, more lives, would they be able to survive, And those are going to be, and that's why I say, when I ever do funerals and all that, that's why I always tell people, after the funeral, that's when the mourning, that's when the hurt. With time going by, I learned one thing. A lot of people say, well, as time goes by, you'll heal. Yeah, you heal. But at the same time, you're going to be hurting. And then with time, it becomes a reality of what's going on, see? Because when you lose somebody out of tragedy or all of a sudden, it's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's like a nightmare. Thinking that you're going to wake up and you don't, And that's why, we need to pray for them. We need to, say, and we live in a cruel world.
Yeah.
We live in a cruel world. You never know where it can happen. One day it can happen here. One day it can happen in one of our schools in San Antonio.
Yeah, no,
you never know.
You're right.
Yeah.
You never know.
You're right.
There were threats. Well, after that, there were threats. There were threats. Yeah. The school right before, close to our house, they had a threat that they were going to go and shoot over there.
Yeah.
So because at the same time they glamorize it, and other kids and other ones that see all this that are going through the same thing want to do the same. In other words, they want to go out. I was just gonna say famous. I was
gonna say that's it's just crazy, man, and it's stupid that like kids want to copycat that kind of behavior, and think that something like that is even acceptable. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what. Like, we can pray for people, but what more can we honestly really do?
Yeah, it's a choice that.
What more can we honestly really do? I mean,
well, I
just think it's gonna get worse. Honestly, I think it's just gonna be more and more.
I mean,
and more and more, man.
I mean, the world's gonna get worse, but I think what our response as I believe as believers in Christ, Christians, whatever you want to title yourself, I think our response is the epitome of this is not losing hope. Because the moment we lose hope, then you've lost everything. And this is the way it took me a while to look at this way, and this is the way I look at it. God hasn't lost hope on humanity. If he had lost hope on humanity, he would come back. He would fulfill everything he said in Revelations and cut out. Because there was one point where God was on the urge of losing hope, and he wiped out the whole earth, but a few people.
Right. Agreed.
So God hasn't lost hope on humanity. So it's easy for us to start losing hope. And that's one of the things that when these things come out of the tragedy, one of the things that, it's constantly said is, well, we don't need no more prayer. We don't need no more this. Well,
no.
Kind of the reason, but the reason that comes out is because they're taglines now. Every politician on both sides uses taglines of, well, let's pray, but no one's really praying. It's easy to say that, but if you're not really praying, if you're not really turning it over to God and saying, okay, God, you come and be in control. Here's the thing. I don't think our government in its own is going to fix everything. We live in a democracy. We got to follow what's there. I mean, when I look at all the forms of government across the world, the democratic way that we have in the United States is still the best way. It's imperfect in its way.
Right. But I can agree with that.
And I think, but that's where we're American citizens, but at the same time, we're supposed to be followers of Christ, and that's where we're supposed to. How do we impact this? We're not going to impact every single thing. There's nothing we're going to do that's going to stop all of these tragedies and things like that. But you just never know what it is when you're praying for someone, when you're there showing love to someone. That's why it's important that I think we learn how to love each other and learn how not so much of just evangelizing, saying, "Oh, you need to come to church. Oh, you're gonna burn in hell. Oh, you're gonna do this." It's more of just showing love to people,
and I think living in reality, because in reality they had all the right things in place in that school. All of those were supposed to be locked. They were supposed to have security and all that. And because of a human error of a teacher wanting to go and get whatever she wanted to go and get from her car, thinking that, you know what, hey, we live in a small city, things like this don't happen.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't even think it might even happen.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Just went out and left the door ajar.
Right.
Because it was they said we had it in place. It was supposed to be locked, all of it.
Yeah.
So that means it was just a human error. Because, we always think that it can never happen to us. It can never happen in our city, or it can never happen, It's like when 9/11 happened. Whoever thought we were going to be attacked again?
Oh, yeah,
Or just as bad.
In Hawaii, we were attacked. When was it? When
Pearl Harbor?
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And, so after that, we thought we had everything in place, the right thing and all that. And then 9/11 came and, made America realize that we're vulnerable anywhere, and then, because it's just like now, the NRA is in Houston having, I think it's a conference they're having or something like that. And people, don't sell guns, don't do this, look, you can put all the rules you want. You can buy anything illegally, illegally. Yeah. You're never going to stop it. What happened with marijuana? Years back, marijuana was one of the worst drugs, was considered a drug.
Gateway or something like that.
And they would put you in prison for a little matchbox, give you 5-10 years for that. You would get it. And so what did America do? You know what? We're not going to beat it. So let's make it legal. Let's get money out of it. We're not getting nothing out of it. So now they made it. Now they're making it legal in a lot of places. So you're never gonna stop things like that. It's hard. It's and all these I hear red flags. Sometimes they're not gonna show red flags. Sometimes you're not gonna see those red flags. You know when we see them? After the tragedy happens, then you see all the red flags. That's in anything. Anything. A plane goes down, investigation. That's when they find out all the errors. So it's you can never protect anything 100%. But you can always try to be alert. Alert. And not allow fear to control us, because fear is something else. Like me, my kids are all grown up. I thought I would never have to worry about that again, but now I got a grandson.
Yeah,
he's gonna go to school sooner or later. And you never know if and the thoughts start happening. Okay,
man.
Can it happen there?
Yeah.
And I think Fidelia was saying that this one idiot said about sending everybody to private school.
Well,
private
he lost
schools
his
are
daughter, so let's
let's take away the idiot, poor man. And but not everybody can afford a private school. Not everybody can afford one of the best schools in some of the best schools that are out there. Even with government help, you might not be able to. I remember when my kids were growing up, and we were with this organization, and they would, and at that time they started putting, at first it was homeschooling, remember?
Oh, yeah.
They were homeschooling. They would tell me, homeschool your kids, Joe. You don't know what's going on. No. And then all of a sudden, Christian schools started popping up all over the place.
Yeah.
And they started putting their kids in Christian school. You say, oh, you should put your kids in Christian school. Don't put them in public school. You don't know what can happen. I said, look, don't matter where they go, they're gonna learn evil. I had friends that used to they used to go to Catholic schools.
Yeah.
Private. Those are considered private schools.
So they were just trying to tell you to make your kids go to Christian school, so that they can avoid what?
Yeah.
The world?
The danger, the world and all that.
Like, really?
Yeah.
And I told them no.
No, man.
This is.
I know. I wanted that.
That's always
to
my philosophy.
Yeah.
Look, I don't care where they go. If you don't teach them right and wrong,
right.
If you don't teach them the principles of the word and all that, hey, wherever they go,
right.
Look, because you send them to private school, but if you still live in the same neighborhood, they're gonna hang around with their friends there and all that, and learn things. So I believe, and I heard of this one. I think it was this. It's a black private school. I think it was. It came out in the news. And he was showing them about guns and shooting and all that. And they started criticizing him big time.
Oh, damn.
And he said, "Look, if I don't teach them the right way, somebody's gonna show them the wrong way.
Yeah, somebody gonna show them.
It's better if I teach them the right way. They know that guns are dangerous.
Yeah.
If they don't use it the right way, they know they gotta know that the guns." And he said, "Look, the guns are not the problem. It's the people behind those guns.
The stupid people with guns.
Right.
Guns don't just kill people. It's stupid people.
You never know. So I gotta teach them the right way.
Yeah. No.
So that where it goes back to responsibility. Number one, to the parents. Number two, to the community, to the church, to everybody, to teach our kids. Let them know.
I mean, but you can teach your kid, man. I mean, but your kid is gonna ultimately be and do whatever they're gonna be and do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, we can't just ultimately just try to blame somebody's parents because somebody went up and shot up the school because
you don't know how they.
You don't know, right? You don't know how they could have probably raised this boy,
right?
You know what I'm saying, right? Because, and. He just for whatever reason in his mind, this is what he chose.
Yeah.
So I just think honestly through all of this, man, like Tony said it best, man, that we need to just have more hope.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to stop, man.
It's like this. You can teach your kids till they're 18 years old and then still in their 30s and they're going to their 40s and all that. What are you looking at?
Well, I'm trying to figure out where you're rambling.
And teach them all that, and then all of a sudden, some idiot gang member or people from the streets come and and right away, everything you taught them,
and just boom,
they'll believe that other person right away, and go down. So it's hard. All you can do is pray, and hopefully that whatever they learn in life, they grow up, and and one day they follow God and they do the right thing, live a good life. I thank God that when He changed me, my kids, they live a pretty good life.
Yeah, you did a good job, man. You did a real good job.
I've got a lot of friends that man.
Compared to,
I mean, seriously, not even his friends. Like I can name some people right now that that. Y'all don't even know this,
right?
For real, like you did a good job, man.
But it's because like you said, it's so easy to blame. Like right now, the grandparents. It's so easy to blame the mother, And I didn't hear the report, but apparently the mother came out and said,
I don't know,
something about
You heard something, Tony? I don't know.
She was asking for forgiveness for her and her son, and. He had his reasons.
He had his reasons or something like that to do what he did.
Yeah. And that kind of.
Regardless, we don't know how those kids were raised. Because now they're gonna trace the guns. I mean, he bought them and all that. And put blame and all that. But there's some parents that have bought them, and like that one kid, where was it? Where they're charging the parents. in one other school.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Because both parents, because of the
I remember. I forgot what that was about, but I remember that. Yeah,
and I think that they were okay with what he did.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think
so they
Florida
were
was it Florida?
Yeah, I think it was Florida.
You know, so there's, you never know, so
I know there's a book, and I read it from the first. It was Columbine, the mother of the killer, of Colorado, Columbine, and I bought the book and I read it, and she's after 25 years or 30 years, I'm not too sure where about. It wasn't too long ago, maybe about 5 years ago, that it came out, and I bought the book because I wanted to hear and nice neighborhood. Nice view of the mountains. But she said, I missed it, and at that time, privacy to your kids, you don't go into their rooms, you don't go ahead and do their things.
Oh, no.
That was a big thing back then.
And that ain't happening now.
I know. That didn't happen in my room. I mean, in my house either. But still.
No way. Like, what?
She's, and I read the book.
No bills to have
really
privacy.
wanted to go ahead and find out what she, and you can hear in her in the book and how she, she's so remorse that her son did what
I think
what he did.
Yeah,
but I think
there's a book out there on Columbine.
I mean, a lot of survivors and parents of the shooters have written books, and they're good reads and stuff to go look at. I think one of the things we have to be careful on is going to absolutes of what we think will prevent all of this, because nothing's ever going to prevent all of this. Right. All you do is reduce the chances of it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. I think one of the issues, I think I'm glad the way I was raised, but we weren't perfect.
Oh no.
Like, we gotta be very clear. Like, we didn't live perfect lives. We're not perfect people, but in the understanding of learning to have those conversations, learning to have those dialogues, understanding that we're not gonna be perfect, understanding that we're gonna, because that's a lot of what honestly, you can go to the gun debate, you can go to all these different debates and stuff. But to me, one of the biggest things is that we just don't talk with each other. We don't have these conversations. Like, even right now, coming out of all of this, these are very polar.
Are you saying conversation?
Because these are very polarizing issues. When you talk about gun control, when you talk about abortion, they're very polarizing issues. And what ends up happening is everyone gets upset.
Yep.
And no one's listening to each other. We stopped learning. We stopped learning as people to understand that we're gonna agree to disagree at times.
Right. That's the problem.
And then we stop talking.
Yep.
And we have to have these tough conversations sometimes with the understanding of that we're gonna come to different solutions, and it can't be extreme solutions. Like, we can't put in laws that are gonna completely get rid of mental health. Just the same way we're not gonna be able to put in laws to get rid of all the guns.
Right.
But if we actually start talking, we will come to realistic solutions.
Right.
Where it may be stuff that's not going to 100% prevent everything, but may help limit some of it. And that's what I mean. Like, it's having these conversations amongst family members, amongst parents, amongst each other. Yeah. And that's really what happens. Like, if you look at our government today, I said, out of all the other governments I've seen, there's no other form of government I would want to live in. But our government is also flawed in the sense of, right now, everyone's too far on each other's end that they don't listen to each other. We don't listen. And I think that's where the problem. And I think,
or come to a compromise to make choices.
And I think as we come through this, and that's one of the things I think as Christians, sometimes we felt that too. We don't listen. We hold on to our truths, which you should hold on to, but Christ listened. He heard the people. He listened to he was told, don't hang out. Like, for him in the Jewish culture, for him to go to sinners, to go and talk to women, to go do this and that was huge no-nos. Those were things that he wasn't supposed to do. But he went and did it because he was listening to the people.
Against their custom.
He was listening to different things because he came for the lost. And I think that's something like, you know, like what Dad was saying a second ago, like taking all your kids and homeschooling them, and if that's what you want to do, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
You can afford it.
But if you think by homeschooling your kid is gonna prevent them 100% from going through anything, or if you think throwing them through private school is gonna make them safe, or you think because you bring them to church and they go to children's church every Sunday, every service, that's gonna prevent things. It's not. It reduces some of the chances of this happening. But there's no 100% guarantee of any.
Yeah, what I meant by that is just you know, in May, I believe we had you guys, so it was my responsibility as a parent to know how they were living, not living, what you know, and to try to teach them the right and wrong, and you can never force them.
Yeah,
you know, that's my belief. Not okay. I'm gonna send them to a Christian school. Like again, there's nothing wrong with that. If you can send them, go ahead. But what I mean, don't make it believe. Okay, I'm gonna send them. That's it. They're gonna learn everything there. No, you still gotta do your job.
I think it's kind of like what we talked about. Just because you come to church doesn't mean you're saved. There's a relationship out of it. We're supposed to have a relationship with Christ, just the same way. Just because you send your kids to church, you send them to private school or homeschool, you have to have a relationship with them. Right. And again, that's not going to prevent everything.
And it's the same thing, you know, there's kids that have here in our church, since I've been a pastor. And before, when I was an associate, you know, I don't even know what I was under my dad, but I was something. I would see them that they would come through the nursery, through the children's church, and through the church. And once they came of age, and even at 13, we would lose them.
Yep.
We wouldn't see them no more.
Yeah.
You know. And then we would find out they were either doing, you know, bad things. And not all of them. Some of them, they did good in their life, you know. Because, and you're right. Look, we live in a society that we don't, right now in the society we live, we don't respect each other. We don't respect our beliefs. We don't respect, you know, what another person thinks or doesn't think, you know. And now, you know, you see it all the time in the news. You see it all the time that, you know, if they don't think the way you think, man, they come down on you. It's like, you know, the abortion thing. You know, they're over there protesting at the judge's house and all that.
It's like,
you know, and I say, okay, what happens if the judge would take all the people and go to your house and protest? I guarantee you wouldn't like it either. You know, because you know they rule one way or another. You know, that's their opinion. That's what they're gonna do.
Right.
You know, we all have opinions. You know, but in the time we live now, we don't respect it. You know, I mean, I remember, you know, Pelosi. Never forget how disrespectful she was to
Nancy Pelosi,
Trump. And one time that he was speaking and all that, and she got up in front and tore that paper like that. You know.
Yeah.
Those things would never happen. You know, but now because you don't like somebody, you know, hey, you know, it's like our president. Like I've always said, I think he's an idiot. And I see him one day, I'll go to UVALDE and probably call him an idiot into his face. But he's my president right now.
Right.
And I got to pray for him. He's leading the nation for another 2 years or whatever, you know, he has. We got to pray for him. We got to pray for all the people he chose in his cabinet or whatever. Pray for them, you know, regardless if we like it or not, you know. Because that's who's running everything right now.
You're
know,
right. You're right.
I might not like the things he's doing and all that. I might not like him messing with my money with the gas. Now I gotta pay a lot of more in gas, and I can't buy candy no more. You know, and all that stuff. You know, but we gotta pray, and that's the thing that, you know, I've seen it in church. I call it the gang mentality. The gang mentality. Because the gang is, if you don't think like we do, you don't belong to us. And I say it a lot in the church. You know, it's like churches, we're not supposed to be fighting with one another. We're not supposed to be we're going to have indifferences. Yeah, we might not, but at the same time, you know, And the sad thing, you know, I've always said we call ourselves brothers and sisters. We don't believe that. We don't, you know, because you know what? At the end of the day, we start criticizing each other. We don't like what they say, this or that, and you know what?
Yeah.
No, and that's not right. You know, that's not right. You know, it's like us. We have to do what we do where God puts us. God puts us here in Victory Life Church Ministry. Victory Chapel is our church. And He put us here in our city, San Antonio. Yep. The best city in the world. You want to know what heaven is? Come and live in San Antonio. You know, that's the best thing. And God put us here. And then He puts us right here in this section of our city, you know, to evangelize, to help. And then the people, whatever God sends us, that's our job to work with. You know, and deal with and you know, pray for them and help them out, and because you know what, again, because there's a lot of things going on with a lot of people, you know.
Well, I think that's why I think, you know, for anyone listening, wherever they're at or whatever ministry they're part of, that's part of what they should be doing, and we all should be doing it. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, I think us just, you know, I say being nicer to each other. I'm not saying please and thank you. It's just, you know, showing more concern for each other. You know,
I think that's it.
Just really
more
building that community out there, having these conversations, being open to it. I think that's really, it's not going to change everything. You may not, but you just never know how you impact someone. Like, and that's the thing. We will never fully understand the full impact of it, but at least we can do those pieces, have those parts, because to just have a defeated mentality through all of this is
you know what the hardest part has been? Seeing the pictures in the news of the 19 kids, seeing their little faces, you know, and it gave me flashbacks when our baby died and we knew she wasn't gonna survive. And it took me back to when I had to carry her, and they brought her to me, and I carried her. And I'll never forget, when I got her, she grabbed this one finger, grabbed it like that. Man, that broke my heart. You know. And still, as a man, a prideful man, I didn't want to cry. And I didn't. But yet, that broke me. Just knowing that that was the last time I was going to see her alive. You know. And knowing that she started having seizures while I was carrying her. So the nurse came and said, no, now we got to take her. Because she's going to start having a lot of seizures and you don't want to see that. You know. You know, and when I saw those kids, I started thinking of the parents, of the pain that they're going to go through. You know. You know, not knowing that was the last day, man, that they saw those kids.
Tough, man.
You know, going back to their rooms,
and I started thinking, what happened if they had an argument? What happened if they corrected them? You know, what happened if the kids went mad at them, hurt with them, and they weren't able to make it up? You know, those parents, those family, you know, they're suffering. Yeah, there's a lot of help out there, and I'm glad that our governor that we have is sending them a lot of counselors and a lot of help. You know, whatever they need.
Yeah, because they definitely need that for sure.
You know what? The hardest thing that reminded me, they're Hispanics, they're Mexicans, and we Mexicans were very prideful that sometimes we don't want to get help like that. And we're gonna deal it in our own way, you know. You know, we'll deal with our pain the way we know how to do it, you know. And it's sad that we don't seek help, you know. And there's a verse in Romans 12:50 says, "Rejoice with those who rejoice, and mourn with those who mourn." You know, it's sad what's happening over there. But the good thing that God has ministers, God has pastors, and servants over there that are helping them out. That's one thing I love that I saw a lot of the people there where they're praying for people, laying hands and all that, but we have to rejoice with our people, and we have to mourn with our people too, and help each other out, not be prideful. I guess as I get older, I get a little bit of mushy gushy wushy, whatever the hell they call it, and we need to seek help. We might not be going through the same pain they're going. We might not be going through the same circumstances that they're going, that their lives have changed for the rest of their life.
Man, that's just
for the rest of their life. Some of those people are never, ever may ever get over it.
Nope.
So, but we have to face whatever we're facing here, and mourn with them, and rejoice at the same time.
Oh yeah.
And again, like I've been saying the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, talk to somebody. I had this one brother call me right away and ask me, why do I tell people at my job that, because I've been witnessing, telling them that God is good and God is love, and I know they're going to question me about this. What should I tell them? I said, you know what? Just tell them there's evil in the world. Because it's sad that everything that goes wrong, we always want to blame God. Why didn't God prevent it? Why didn't God do this? See? Because you know what? God didn't make us robots. God gave us choices. That young man had a choice. He made a choice.
Yep.
He made a choice to buy those guns. He made a choice to, I guess, shoot his grandmother. He made a choice and drove the truck. I don't know if that was his target to go to that school or not. But whatever, he made that choice to go in that one school and go into those rooms and do what he did.
I think that's one of the toughest things that God calls us to do, and that's why He calls us separate from the world, is to love everyone.
Right.
Because through this tragedy, and that's what it is, it's a tragedy. And that kid at that time, they're labeling him a monster and this and that, and what, by no means are we, or myself, belittling what he did. He did a horrific thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that kid did not, he wasn't born a monster.
Mm-hmm.
He was another little kid running around playing, and the same way God still loves him. And God calls us to do the same thing. That's why when we use the word tragedy, that's really what it's a tragedy all the way around. Like there's so much ripple effects of that there. Like, and that's one of the things we have to ask ourselves is what drove this kid to that point? What made him think that at 18 years old, this was his only solution in life? And I think that's something that we have to sometimes
know.
Well, no, we'll never know the full. We'll never know the full answer of it.
No.
But I think if we ask the question and stuff like that, I think sometimes that's why we need to look, and we gotta look. We're not gonna prevent every single situation, but we can love on the people around us. And I think that's when you ask that question, that's what it makes you think about is, okay, how do I love on the people around me? Because how do I know they're not one step away from snapping? How do I know they're not, whatever that kid was planning it all that time or whatever, there's so many mixed report. And like you said, everyone's going to analyze it afterwards of this and that. Was he bullied? Was he not? Right. This.
And that's everything. But that's everything. And that's every time. We always do that.
You're right. That kid already made his choice. Nobody can help him. But we can help, again, where we're at, we can help whoever's going through something like that. I'm not saying that they want to go and do something like that, but they might be thinking of suicide. They might thinking of ending their life. They might thinking, and there can be people in our church.
Well, that's what I mean. I think,
look, and you were saying about God's love. Look at God with Cain. God didn't kill him.
Oh, he still loved him.
Right. And he even put a mark on him so they wouldn't touch him.
Yeah.
You know? He paid his consequences. He had to leave.
Yeah.
You know. But God loved them.
Yep.
God loved Adam and Eve even after they did what they did.
Yeah.
You know, God loved David after what David did.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to, like, I think when God looks at all of this from the high level that he sees it, I think he understands, you know, this is the corruption and the fall of humanity. He always is going to love his creations, whether we do what's right or wrong. I mean, and I think that's more where I'm coming from, is more of the sense of when we start thinking this can never happen to us, that's when pride takes in, and that's when the fall happens.
Oh yeah, because then you're not seeing what's in front of you.
And I think that's one of the things that we have. Whether we all want to, and I'm not saying that everyone's at a point where they can go and shoot up a school or go commit a murder or do this or that, but you never know the circumstances in life that lead you to that. Right now, you may be in a spot you're perfectly fine and this and that, but if everything's taken away and you hit rock bottom, you never know if you're one snap away from doing something. That's why it's important that we don't ever take that for granted. As a parent,
the only one that, you know, well, I won't say the only one, but Samuel, my son, when his friend died, was killed, they shot him, and I think Sammy was probably about 18. I saw a change so badly, you know, and he shares with me now, but I could see it. And there were times that I think at 22, he was drinking more and coming home drunk. I don't know what he did out there because, you know, but I could see it happening. And I wanted to help, and I tried, you know. I know that Joe he'd call and say, I'm over here. I don't know where I'm at, you know, and thank God for cell phones. Okay. I'd be on the phone with him and be on the other phone with Joe, and he'd be out there looking for him because he was so drunk. They dropped him off. I don't know where, and you know, where exactly. And so then he'd come home. And this was like every Saturday, right? Mm-hmm. So I would, you know, I'd spend the night talking to him or listening to him. And the other part of the night, I mean the morning really, because by the time Joe found him and brought him home.
Mm-hmm. But look, that's.
I know, but.
You know,
this is part of what's going on. And I remember him telling me so many things that were going on in his life. And at the time, well, he's drunk and I can't. And a lot of times it was a suicide watch, really. Joe would come, and he it was Sunday morning and he had to preach. He hadn't really slept, and I wouldn't be able to make it. I'd tell him, go, I'll stay, keep an eye on him, make sure he doesn't hurt himself. Mm-hmm. You know, and these are things that I don't know how many parents may have gone through it. And as much as I wanted to, and my only hope was, God save him. God come and save him. Because I had done as much as I could for him, humanly possible. I didn't know.
But see, look, at
all
least
the things that.
But at least you were there, though. You know what I'm saying? You were there for him. You know, like, had you not been there, you never know. He could have been that Uvalde shooter. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. So
yeah, I mean, I hear the stories he tells me now,
you know,
and I'm like,
it's good that you were there for him, and that's what we need, man. We need, you know, we need people to be able to recognize those signs in people and be able to, you know, try to intervene as quickly as we can.
But it took years before, you know, and it seemed, and and as they always say, it gets worse towards the end. And sure enough, you know, it really felt like that because I was like, I'm on suicide watch. I'll take care of him.
What is sad is the reputation churches have nowadays. You know, people are afraid to come and open up to the pastors, to the leaders, to the associate pastors, or to somebody else because they're afraid of what they're gonna think of them. You know, that's sad that, you know, we live where, oh no, if I tell them that I'm thinking this way, I'm thinking that, they're gonna look at me bad, you know. Yeah. Or they're gonna, you know, it's like when you shared what you shared that you were going through, you know. And one thing that's the devil. That's why we have to be who we are, and then God's gonna change us. You know, God didn't choose us to be perfect. God didn't choose it because nobody can be perfect. You know, just like Tony said, our family wasn't perfect. You know, never.
Yeah, I think that's why this podcast is important because I think it's opening up a layer to that. Because I think not just speaking on our church, but I think the body of Christ had created an image of you can't have flaws, you can't have this, you can't have that. Most people would have never known that was going on. Maybe little bits of it, but not known everything that was going on. So I think it's important that these podcasts is opening up that this is getting out there. You know, it's definitely a vulnerable spot to be in to open up about these things. To, you know,
something that we did learn, Joe and I, was that when he was drunk, he wanted to talk. He wanted to pour out his heart to us, tell us what was going on. You know, and I'd sit there and I'd listen. And sometimes I don't know why, Sammy. I don't understand, but you know, but we learned that a lot of times when they're in that state, you know, my mother always said, you know, don't talk to someone that's drunk. Try to correct them when they're drunk because they're drunk. You wait until the next day. But I know that a lot of times when they're, you know, especially, you know, I learned this from my experience, was that I sat there and listened. And I heard what he was saying. I heard a lot of times parents will go ahead, oh, you know, just go to bed, go to your room, go, you know. But I don't know, the wine was, or the beer, whatever he was on, it would go ahead and take that layer that he wanted to say what was deep down hurting. And you know, so I sat through many nights listening to what was bothering him, what was hurting.
Yep. That's probably what he needed, though. You know what I mean? That's probably exactly
finally he did
what he needed.
Confess to me, you know, so many things that I was able to target in prayer, you know. And I remember I'm doing my housework, I'm sweeping, and maybe, and that, I do, a lot of that time I put, you know, a sermon or I'm talking to the Lord, and my focus is praying and sweeping and mopping. And I remember, you know, in my desperation asking God, you know, Lord, you know, I had heard something, and this was a Christian saying, if they're not saved by the age of 17 and they've been in church, they're lost. And I was like, that broke my heart.
It's not true.
I know, no, it's not, because of Samuel, you know, and I'm there, oh Lord, I can't. And another sermon, God, you know, is the one. So I remember my prayer being, Lord, because the way I was seeing Samuel, he's gonna, you know, to me, he was gonna die.
Yeah.
You know, and I told God, I don't know, God, you may go ahead and take him. That's gonna hurt so much. I said, but I'm not gonna blame you. I'm not gonna be angry at you, because I believe you gave him a chance. He was raised in a Christian home. We did our best to love him. And if that's what you decide, you're gonna have to help me through it. But I'm gonna keep on serving you. And
Amen.
I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm not going to hold you responsible because you're a merciful and loving God.
You know,
And I remember towards my confession of that I felt God speak to my heart and say, Sammy's going to be saved. He's not going to be saved under your ministry, but he's coming. He's going to be saved. And I remember, you know, and it didn't happen immediately. It didn't, but I had to hold on to that promise. I think the Lord had given me a little insight of the future, you know, that was coming. And I remember sharing that with Joe and telling him, you know, the Lord, you know, Sammy's going to get saved. He won't be under our ministry, but he's going to be saved. You know, I believe God, that's what God told me. And it was laying my son at the altar and saying, just, I believe as Abraham may have said, you know, God, I believe you'll bring him back. But that was my prayer.
You know, because we were pastors, we're still pastors.
Yeah.
Not bastards, pastors. And we have 3 kids, you know, and a lot of people think because they're pastors' kids and they were raised in the church that they're going to live a Christian life through all their life, you know. But they all went through their own things. They all did things that they weren't supposed to do, you know. Sammy was like his mom, very talkative. They'll say everything. Tony is more secretive, you know. He won't say a lot, you know. You have to put it. He's just like me. You don't give information, you know. Just yes, no, okay, and all that. And you know, Leticia too. She's a little bit more like me. She won't. She'll talk a little bit, but not that much. But they all went through their stuff, you know. And we realized that just because we were pastors, you know, God called me as the pastor. Didn't call my wife, didn't call my children. God called me. Now, I was blessed that Fidelia agreed to do what we do, you know, because before we became pastors, you know, I was working, I had a good job and all that. You know, we're getting a little bit, and I had to, you know, the day I quit my job, I didn't talk to her. I just quit.
Well, see, this is, you know, this is where, let me interrupt you.
But,
okay.
You know.
I'll wait.
Just, you know, and then I realized that I saw that people thought that my kids should be saved, that my kids should act this way and that way because they were kids. They were pastors' kids. You see, and that's the sad thing that we do that in Christianity. Oh, you're a Christian. You ain't supposed to be doing that. Ah, you're a Christian. You ain't supposed to be cussing. Oh, you're a Christian. You ain't supposed to be doing that. You know, and that's sad that, you know, they think that we can't do nothing. Look, I've always told all my friends, my family and all that, when they say, oh, you're a Christian. Oh, Joe, no, you can't do this. They say, no, I can do whatever I want. I choose not to. You know, God changed me. He took away all those desires. He took away, you know, and I enjoy life just the way I am. That's my choice, you know. But it is sad that in Christianity we always think that, you know, and it's sad that in even our church people are afraid to. They're going through their problems. They're going through their circumstances, and instead of you know, what is it? A village they call it.
Yeah.
You know, you need a village. You know, family. You know, it's sad that we can't come to, you know, hey, I'm going through this, I'm struggling. Can you help me in prayer? Can you give me advice? Can I talk to you? Just listen to me, you know, and all this. You know, we don't call each other to see how we're doing or not doing, you know. It's sad. It's sad that, you know, and, you know, I remember this one sister would always pass by my office, and one day until finally she came and talked to me, and said, I thought you were mean. I said, I am mean. This is me. I don't smile. You know. But once she got to know me, she knew that, oh, you know. Right. And that's the thing, that we don't get to know one another to find out, because once you know each other, you know when somebody's going through something, and you can pray for them. Even though let's pray for him. Let's because even like now, we've had a lot of people lose somebody here in our church. Like Sister Marta, lost her husband. Your wife lost her father. Her brothers lost their father. Yeah. And then we have like Dorothy and them, and the church. We lost an associate pastor.
Benny.
Benny and all that. And sometimes we think, okay, that's it. We move on. But you know what? Sometimes we don't realize the pain they're going through. That they're still suffering. And sometimes it's hard to find somebody that they need to talk to, because family goes back to their own lives, everybody. And we do that at the church, and that's sad that we life is so fast.
All right, so sorry about that. The battery had died, so I don't remember where we were. I think you were sharing, and then you were going to say something, so...
Okay, so do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, because let my brain come back to in order.
Okay.
I gotta clap it so it can turn on.
He was saying.
I think the battery died because you got so emotional. I don't think the battery was ready for you.
I'm not emotional.
It's all right. Embrace the emotions.
Right.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Or as you call it, mushy. Well, I don't know where the hell you got that from. Like that.
It's too mushy gucci. But just because we're Christians and all that, that's where I was. Yeah, doesn't we have to be who we are, all of us.
Yeah.
God loves us the way we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I found that
we should be able to help each other out.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that our church, with time, because I know there's a lot of people are hurting. It's Rosie, who lost her husband too.
Yes.
All of a sudden, and through that pain that they're going through and all that, and sometimes we forget because life is starting to get back to normal.
After COVID, yeah.
People are not afraid of getting COVID no more. People are not afraid of, we're not wearing masks, we're not cleaning our hands, and we're scratching our butts and our nose and all that, and not clean. And things are getting back to normal, and a lot of times when life starts getting back to normal, we start forgetting about each other. And I'm hoping that look, our block parties were great.
Oh yeah,
everything we're doing was great. But I think what God wants is for us to concentrate on our church, building up our family again, this is our family, and picking them up, because a lot of people are hurting, like I said, and they don't know, and they can't open up to us. They open up to somebody else. The good thing nowadays, there's a lot of numbers on what is it, the internet, the TV, and all that. People you can call for prayer.
Yep.
K-Love, where I send $1, so I'm supporting them. You can call them because I'm supporting them with $1. Call them, and there's a lot of people that can pray for you. But we're here too. We're here to help you. And we're not gonna judge you or criticize you or.
I think that's what part of the podcast is about. It was to open up more vulnerable, because I know these stories. Manny knows some of these stories, but it's like, unless they're talking to you one-on-one or stuff, they don't always hear these stories or hear the background. And that's what I mean. I think, you said it a second ago, I am a very private person. So for me, this is stepping out of my comfort zone, coming onto the podcast, giving more of my 2 cents. I would give my 2 cents on a lot of things, but usually it's in a structure of 30 minutes and then I'm off the pulpit. Unless you're talking to me and get to know me, you don't know my full thoughts and process and stuff. And I think this is more of what we were trying to do with this.
And even if they can't talk to us, they can even, comment on the anonymous.
You can send comments. Well, I don't know if you can do the comments anonymous, but you can send us messages.
Yeah, you can send
us an
messages.
email. We won't put your name out there.
Right, but yeah, we have an email, right?
Yeah, we have an email.
You can ask us questions or tell us what you're feeling and all that.
And that's kind of what
and we'll answer you back, you know, Tony or Manu, one of us will answer, because I don't know what the email is, but that's too much.
And I think that's, if you go back and look, people have been putting comments in there, and that's a good thing. They're sharing, some are sharing their testimony, some are sharing thoughts and stuff. I know before the battery went out, you were going to say something too? Or?
Yes, when he said that, he touched on, you know, that he was called to ministry. When we were dating, that was something that we did discuss, you know, and he said, I want to open a youth camp. I want to work with teenagers. And I said, yeah, you know, because I felt a calling since the age of 17. I remember having a conversation with my pastor at that time and telling him, I'm going to go into ministry. I'm going either to Bible school, or I'm going to marry into it, but you know what? I'm going to be in ministry. And a year later, you know, I'm married, and I knew something was going to change. And yes, ministry was something that I was wanting and always had been in.
Yeah, that's I thought we were supposed to be talking about ministry. And
full time. So
we switched gears.
Like, when he says that, you know, I was called. That's why when he said, you know, God called me, I didn't like it because of course I was a young married person, but at the same time I realized, well, it's just me and him. You know, there's no kids involved right now. So you know what?
Gravy.
Okay.
Right.
I didn't know everything that was going to come with it, but at the same time, you know, I was okay. Let's go, you know, and as much as he was of course I was disappointed when we didn't get the support that we thought we would, but you know, we never went ahead and, you know, went without eating. I remember one week or a couple of days that we spent it in the Mirasol home, just with a mattress on the floor. And I said, that's fine. It's just me and you. You know, I was willing to make the sacrifices. And I remember years later, one of the co-pastors, Brother Victor, said, you know, was it worth it? You know, is this? I said, yeah. I mean, you know, it was rough at the beginning, and sometimes it does get rough, but God went ahead and gave me everything I wanted.
Yep, that's what's up.
Know?
And you know what's sad? It's still rough.
I see still the blessing.
You know what? God always blesses, you know.
Yeah. I mean, kids and all.
Yeah, and I think that's where, you know, when we go through our different phases of life, like I think when my dad's talking about sometimes that he got called to ministry, we didn't. We all get called at our different times. I think every human being is called to ministry in a different way. It's whether you're actually serving in the church or doing it in other manners, and that's something we'll get into maybe on the third try, since we get into it this time.
Yeah,
we'll definitely. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna focus women on ministry, but I think just looking at the ministry, because honestly, I think that's a piece of it. You know, my dad was called into ministry. I believe and she kind of said, I'm glad she did, because that was my thought too. And he was saying that I know my mom was also called into ministry, and for me, you know, I was called into my own type of ministry. My brother Sue, my sister, like we're all called differently in what we're doing. It's not that whether, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, you were, you know, born a pastor's kid, so that's where you have to head into a pastor's kid. And it's like, I do pastoring different than my dad does it. And we do things different. Mm-hmm. And some things we're going to do the same, but we do things differently.
Because that's what God called you to do.
Yeah. But, you know, and I know he doesn't remember. I remember we're in a van and he's like 5 years old, and you know, Joe was a pastor, and he says, am I going to be the next pastor? And he's 5 years old, and I said, no, I don't know. God has to tell you that you're going to be a pastor, but first you need to know that, ask Jesus to come into your heart, into your life. You know, I'm trying to explain to a 5-year-old, you know. And that was my whole thing was, and he said, well, and I prayed with him and I led him to the Lord. He's 5 years old, you know, and I know he doesn't remember, but I do, because I'm the mother. I remember these moments.
Of course.
And but I never told him he was going to be the next pastor because I didn't know if that was, I wanted him to feel the calling from God and not me telling him, you are.
Right.
Because that wasn't my place. I knew that if he was going to be called, God was having to do the calling.
Well, as we start wrapping up, we definitely, I think, going into the calling and things, I think that's definitely a good segment that we'll go into. We'll bring you back since we're supposed to talk women in ministry. We haven't gotten to that. We'll get to it one of these times. But I mean, just some clarity questions. No, I don't remember it from 5 years old. 2, I was a very smart 5-year-old, just to be clear. So
yes, he was.
Okay.
He was.
I'm just joking.
Okay.
No, he was. I didn't know at the time, but yeah, he was.
I just joking.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
What I meant about you guys weren't called. It wasn't that.
No, we weren't called at that time. We weren't called as kids.
Well, what I meant, I didn't want that pressure on you guys.
Yeah,
that,
same thing.
Because
I didn't want that pressure on
you
him.
guys. That's why I really never took you guys to the conferences. I really never took you guys to where they wanted me to take you guys.
Because you wanted them to decide on their own.
On them because that's the way it was at that time in that organization.
And
I wanted it to come from you guys and God.
And I think I get, and that's why I want to get into that in the next segment because I get that. Like I didn't feel like most people think I came into ministry because my parents were in ministry. No, I came into ministry because I chose to. That's why I've been able to stay in it as long as I have, where you'll see others who kind of like, for me, this ain't a burn. Like I've learned to juggle working a regular corporate job and being in ministry at the same time. And at times thinking, should my calling just be in the ministry? And I actually think God helped me to understand that my calling was in both. Like I work in both areas. I work in Fortune 500 companies. I travel places. I do different things, but I still have the luxury of serving in ministry and doing what I need to do. So we'll get more into that.
You just where God wants you to be.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that I think here in this next segment. But first of all, hopefully you guys are finding this impactful. This is kind of what the whole point is. Like we're going to be inviting more guests on here. We definitely want it to be a vulnerable place where we start talking about those things, unfolding things, going deeper into things.
And before. Let's not forget. Let's keep on praying for you,
That's what I was gonna say. Let's keep them in prayer. Let's keep praying. Let's keep praying for our world, our city. Let's just keep everything in prayer. And I don't think prayer is pointless. I think it's
let's pray for the family of that kid that did it.
Oh, definitely.
Because you know what? That's something. Because we live in a world that now that you can't do that. I remember when. Franklin, Billy Graham's son, Franklin Graham, said that let's pray for Ukraine, and everybody clapped and got all happy about that. And then when he said, but we got to pray for Russia too.
Yeah.
And people got mad and started criticizing him and all that. Regardless of what their president, all that's doing, they still need God.
Yep.
In the same way, regardless, what this kid did, that the family influenced it, not influenced it, whatever.
They still need God.
Yeah. They're hurting too.
At the end of the day,
Sammy went ahead and shared something like that to me.
Let's pray for them,
And just yesterday, he said, I can't agree with those that say, what's prayer and thoughts get to go ahead and help. He said, because, prayers help me to go ahead and come to the Lord. And I know you've said it too, your mom's prayers, went ahead and made a way for you to come to the Lord. So prayers do work, from praying moms that, saw their sons the way they were, that, they kept them in prayer. So we need to keep, believe that prayer does work. Yeah. And pray for all those people in the community of Uvalde.
Yeah.
Yep, let's keep them all in prayer. We'll keep pushing this forward. Again, hit that like button, subscribe button, pass it on to others. Again, like I said, we'll be bringing my mom on another time so that we'll actually get into the topic that we're going to get into. But we felt like this Uvalde thing was a good thing that we needed to address. And then two, we didn't know how far it was going to unfold. But again, the whole point of this is to be vulnerable and stuff like that. So as you guys are listening, if you guys want to be part of this, or you feel like you have a part of your testimony, get with us. We'll have a conversation and kind of see where we go from there. But again, definitely encourage you guys to send your comments. Let's build this community up and let's keep pushing it out there.